Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is Saturday evening, the 16th of February 2019. Tonight's topic, it is Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld. Welcome Smaulgld mug stackers and game changers. Title of tonight's episode is Saturday Night Sleeping Silver Speculation with Smaulgld. Trying a little bit too hard there with the alliteration, I would say, with those sibilant sounds with the S's. Alright, let's get to it now. Tonight, we're not going to have the normal review of the gold and silver prices because gold and silver are not trading at the moment. We'll do a quick recap of what's going on with the cryptos, and then we'll move into Saturday Night Silver. Right now, Bitcoin at $35.85, that's up a little over 0.5%. Bitcoin Cash at $120, that's up almost 0.5%. Ethereum up 1% to $121.57, and Litecoin at $43, up 2.5 points. Let's take a look quickly at some crypto news. Then we're going to have a quiz just to make sure that your minds are sharp as we go through Saturday Night Silver. All right, let's take a look at our crypto stories for the evening. We see we have Roger Henley here. He only can show up on Saturday night or Sunday morning. Work otherwise prevents him from coming. We also have a new photo of a dog with the new Smaulgld pet bowl. We're going to show you that in a little while as well. But first, let's take a look at those crypto stories. Another Bitcoin ETF has been filed. Now, none has been approved yet. We know the biggest one to date that's trying to get approved is the Van Eck one. But now the New York Stock Exchange is looking to file and has filed a Bitcoin ETF. People are saying it's just a matter of time till one of these things gets approved. My concern is there's about a dozen or so pending. I'm just wondering if there's that much demand for Bitcoin in the form of an ETF. How much Bitcoin will you have? 3-4 million Bitcoin in the ETFs when there's only going to be 21 million, and we know there's probably 3 or 4 million lost. You could have a good percentage of the Bitcoin locked up into ETFs if they ever do get around to approving these things. All right, let's see what else. Interesting deal. Not a big deal, but a true deal. Argentina settled an export deal worth about $7,100 with Bitcoin, and they paid Paraguay that. And I looked up, there is some type of department in Argentina that handles payments, and they have a little crypto section, and they authorized the payments to Paraguay in Bitcoin. Very interesting development. It's not a game changer, but it is interesting to note. Here is a great Bitcoin pump. Who is the Chinese crypto miner predicts that Bitcoin can reach $740,000. Of course it can. All right, what else do we got for the cryptos before we move into Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld? Now we got Ethereum futures. They're pushing for that too. ErisX, which is the TD Ameritrade entity that wants to trade cryptocurrencies. They're trying to push Ethereum futures to create a more robust and liquid market. That is one of the things holding back the ETF, is that perhaps that there is not a robust and liquid market, which may be chicken and egg issue, and then also the manipulation and lack of surveillance agreements, which they think they've got sorted out, as well as storage agreements, which they think they have, or solutions, which they also think they have figured out. So we'll see if we get a Bitcoin ETF sometimes this year. And here's another one. Luxembourg passes bill to give blockchain securities legal status. We're seeing a lot of these. Wyoming, other entities or governmental entities saying that Bitcoin is property and that people can own it, and it has all the rights of property. All right, let's move on now. We got a quick gold story here. Interesting development. This is The Economist. Pretty surprising. When trouble strikes, where should you hide? The case for gold. Very interesting that The Economist is actually pushing that, because normally they are against gold. One day we are going to discuss this MMT, this modern monetary theory, which is basically just an extension and a justification for things beyond Keynesianism and just permanent deficit spending. Remember, Keynes himself wanted for fiscal stimulus, which would be the government spending money when the free market, so to speak, is not spending it due to a recession. And then after the government spends the money, goes into a little deficit spending, and the economy recovers, then you're supposed to pay back the money and get back to zero again. We're well beyond that. We're in permanent deficit now. And the MMT, we're not going to talk about it in detail tonight, but it basically argues that just keep right on printing. Don't worry about it. And it'll all work itself out as long as the government's in control of the money supply. It's kind of what they're doing already. So, all right, let's move on now to, oh, before we get into silver, let's show you that treat I mentioned, which is Coco the dog. There we go. There he is with his Smaulgld pet bowl. He can put his snout in there and eat his favorite meal. Thanks for sending that along. Anyone else has any photos of themselves or their pets or their dogs or their cats with their Smaulgld mug, please send it along, or your Smaulgld pet bowl, or your Smaulgld beer stein, whatever it may be. All right, let's get to that quick quiz that I promised you. We'll leave the dog up there to help you think there. And I'm going to go over to the comments here so I can see what you guys are saying. Okay. When someone has interest in a man, usually a woman, solely for his money, that person is called a blank digger. A blank digger. Anyone have the answer to that? I'll give you three choices. Is it Bitcoin digger? Is it silver digger? Or is it gold digger? That is the correct answer. A child who is well behaved is often said to be as good as silver, as good as Litecoin, or as good as gold. As good as gold is the answer. Eric has gotten the first two correct. A valuable employee is often said to be worth their weight in silver, worth their weight in Bitcoin, worth their weight in gold is the answer. A leprechaun is in search of which element, where he finds it in a pot at the end of a rainbow? Lead, copper, silver, or gold? There you go, a pot of gold, Pablo Pina. Someone who excels at everything. It's often said that everything this person touches turns to nickel, turns to uranium, turns to silver, or everything this person touches turns to gold is the answer. Again, King Midas. Now, this just highlights I think, the way gold captures the imagination far more than any other metal. And you have the Lord of the Rings, Gollum, that creature. He is obsessed with Bitcoin, Litecoin, a silver ring, or a gold ring, obviously. Same with Wagner's famous opera, The Ring. Das Rheingold. It's talking about a gold ring. Go back to Greek. My precious. That's right, Pablo. He likes the gold. What was Jason looking for in ancient Greek mythology? Was he looking for a Bitcoin fleece? A platinum fleece? A silver fleece? Or a golden fleece? Again is the answer. All right, now that you guys are warmed up, let's take a look. I've got a lot of charts for you tonight. We're going to go through a gold medal. Exactly. First place winner, Zipper Fixer, says you win the gold medal. Yes, the ring had it. Well, now, hold on, Jeffrey. He says the ring had a magical curse. Now, the one thing I think that rivals the gold mythology on the silver side is the concept of the silver bullet. Then again, what is the purpose of a silver bullet? To kill werewolves. And how useful is that today? It's not quite the same thing. Streets paved with gold, says R. Stewart. Of course, you follow the yellow brick road. And then you have the obvious silver Democrats analogy there, or allegory that they made in The Wizard of Oz. Streets paved with gold. That's correct. They didn't say you got to get to the United States, the streets are paved with silver. Would have cheapened the whole concept, wouldn't it? All right. let's take a look at some of these. Let's say farewell to cocoa. Bye-bye, cocoa. We're going to come back to you maybe later in the show, or definitely we'll be revisiting you. All right, I got a lot of charts here. I want to go through a little more detail on the gold-silver ratio. I've got some mining statistics for you. I've got some COMEX update. And what else do I got? A lot of silver stuff here. And I also have the, no, I don't have it. Yeah, I do. The silver ETF. And then I also have silver demand by sector over the last 15, 20 years. Why don't we get started with COMEX? This COMEX is something you guys, we review all the time. So let's just look and see what gold is in the COMEX. And we're going to take a look at the different COMEX vaults that they have. Now, those vaults are filled with silver, obviously. But it's not just any old silver. It's 1,000 ounce bars that are COMEX approved. And they can be either registered or eligible for trading on the COMEX. And we've got the charts here for all of the different depositories, including JP Morgan, Brinks, and so on. So let's take a look at those charts right now. An up-and-comer is the Brinks Silver Depository. I thought I almost lost it there on the live stream. Happens all the time. But you can see there, 54 million ounces. That is a huge amount of silver. That is over the amount of a record amount of American Silver Eagle productions. I think in 2015, they minted 47 million. So 54 million ounces of silver in good delivery form. This is not, doesn't include any other silver that the Brinks Depository may have, for example, in the form of 10-ounce Canadian bars that they may have people storing there, or monster boxes of Silver Eagles, or monster boxes of Canadian Maple Leafs, or 100-ounce bars, 1-ounce bars. I'm sure there's plenty of other silver in the Brinks Depository. This is just that which is eligible to trade on COMEX. The eligible stocks are, they have to be in the 1,000-ounce 999 fine silver, and then registered is not only are they in that form, but they're good to go to sell if someone wants to, quote, stand for delivery. So there's Brinks, and Brinks really has ratcheted up, more than doubled the amount of silver in the COMEX Depository. The other one, famous one, is JP Morgan. Remember, this is not owned by Brinks, and there's nothing to indicate this is owned by JP Morgan. JP Morgan had topped out at 153 million ounces. They have 147 million ounces in their depository. It's always been interesting to note that the registered stocks don't seem to move, that it just seems to be stockpiling silver that isn't, it's eligible to trade, but isn't registered to trade. Take a couple more looks at what's going on at the COMEX. If you take the overall amount of silver now at the COMEX, including the other depositories other than Brinks and JP Morgan, you're at 296 million. That's a pretty big, it's not all in one place, but if you take together all of the COMEX depositories, then you have close to 300 million ounces. And this is the point I make when they say people are worried about confiscation. The easiest way to if there really was some type of major national emergency, well, this is a place you can go and get it because you know it's there. To go around and ask people they might ask people to turn in some silver, but I doubt they would confiscate it and wouldn't be worth the time to run around and get it. Remember, they can also nationalize mines. There's plenty of places where they can get silver. Okay. Now let's just look at that COMEX in terms of eligible. It's the same number, 296 million. In terms of eligible and registered, you can see there's more eligible than there is registered. And that's largely because JP Morgan has most of theirs ineligible. But still, there's a healthy, close to 90 million ounces that can be used to satisfy contracts if they so desired. Now let's look at silver at the COMEX, all of them. So the red line is JP Morgan, and the silver line is Brinks. They're the two largest. And then for a while, CNT is the light blue line. They were almost equal to the Brinks, but they've shed a lot of silver recently. And it looks like HSBC is one of the other COMEX depositories. They've got about 30 million ounces. So does Coins and Things, CNT. And then the Delaware Depository, it's got about 15, 18 million ounces of silver. Overall, you've got almost 300 million ounces of silver in there. Another way of looking at that chart, remember all these charts will be on Smaulgld.com tomorrow under this title, or maybe a different title. I may change it because when you look at it tomorrow, it won't be Saturday night. And for Roger in Australia or anyone else, for Shanty Girl, it's not Saturday night anymore, it's Sunday morning. But the depository silver stocks you see here, pretty much JP Morgan has gone from having 5% of the overall stocks in 2012 to about 50% right now. And you can also see that Brinks has picked up about, they have about 20% of the overall silver at the COMEX, and the red is JP Morgan and the silver is Brinks. Between the two of them, they've got 70%, 69% of the overall depository silver stocks that are in COMEX eligible or registered form. Now, one other thing, I'm going to show you this. So I have a memory. A lot of times, they say stuff about silver, they make predictions, Shemitah, whatever it is, COMEX default, and then they wait for everyone to forget about it, and then they bring it back again. JP Morgan this or that, and this is going to happen. Well, I follow this all the time, and I always remember what's going on. I've circled 1, 2, and 3. Back in early 2018, they were talking about this big setup, guaranteed silver spike. Never happened. 2 was the big historic. The commercials have gone long for the first time. This never happened before. All that stuff you could see with the blue. And I said that's just a function of the fact that the price had been dropping for 7 months in a row is the natural way that these traders will end up. And I said eventually if the price rises a little bit, you'll see that flip around. And you see what happened in 3. It's exactly what happened. You're back to the commercials being net short in the blue and the non-commercials being net long in the red. And there has been no skyrocketing of silver, letting it ride, or JP Morgan or COMEX default or any of the other bits of nonsense that you hear from time to time, the recycled stories. In fact, they really, the stories are silver is money, period. That's one that's supposed to get you all excited. Small market and therefore great demand. Overwhelmed the physical the physical demand will overwhelm the paper demand. JP Morgan is buying silver. That story is just made up. I don't even see any evidence of that whatsoever. Now, COMEX is going to default. Been hearing that story for literally, as they say, 20 years. It always comes out. Hasn't happened. Not going to happen. Then, of course, the unsustainable gold-silver ratio. Now, all of these stories, every last one of them, there's not a speck of truth in them other than perhaps the small market size of silver, but I think that's over-exaggerated, if that's a word, about how small it is. But the idea that silver is money, it's irrelevant. First of all, you can push a definition that it's money, and you could put a face value on. But if no one's using it, it's not being used as a currency. Therefore, it's dormant money, as I said, and that's why we're talking about Saturday night sleeping silver. Remember, dormant silver, like Sleeping Beauty. The JP Morgan, I just dismiss out of hand. The COMEX default, I also dismiss, and I've written a lot on that one. You can just look up why COMEX won't default. Smaulgld, and you'll see, well, that story's a crock. And then, of course, the gold-silver ratio, unsustainable. And again, that story, and we've seen, and we're going to go through it again. Indeed, I got some more charts to show you. None of those stories, they've been touting those stories for 10, 15, 20 years. There's really been no movement on any of those stories. So then the question is, why do people believe them? And I think the reason people believe these types of stories is because they heard these stories first. This was your introduction to silver. You found the Silver Channel. Guys sounded reasonable, talking about silver, telling you how rare it is, how useful it is, how it's undervalued, how it's gold-silver ratios unsustainable, comes out of the ground at 9-to-1, should be 16-to-1, should be 15-to-1, and then the COMEX is going to default, and JP Morgan is buying silver by the hundreds of millions of ounces. And you hear all this. And I think it just becomes through sheer repetition, the fact that this is where you first heard about it, this is what you first learned, and then by repetition, it's just stuck in your craw that is the way things are. And then 10 years go by and the price of silver is still at $16. And yet, not for 1 minute do many people even think, maybe those reasons for silver to go skyrocketing aren't reasons at all. Maybe there's nothing to them. No, 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 no. They're just early. It's just the markets have just been so messed up for 10 years. Markets just don't understand. And when they do, oh boy, am I going to be rich. I'm going to take my monster box and go buy a city block, greatest wealth transfer in history. Yeah, this was going to happen in between 2010 and 2020. And if you were on the sidelines during this big silver rush, you were going to be left behind, and it was going to be game over, game changer, and so on. So the question is, why do people believe this? And I did an entire show on this called Silver Derangement Syndrome and Gold Derangement Syndrome. And then I get people who make comments. They say, oh, you must hate silver. No, I don't hate silver. I have a realistic view on silver, and I'm going to show you one of these comments. Here's a comment today. This is a very typical comment. You can tell that this guy has seen far too many YouTube videos about silver. He's got all the cliches in here. LMAO. Now, I don't know what he's laughing at. That I explained why the gold-silver ratio, by empirical evidence, has been sustainable. And I'm going to show it again tonight with new charts. And I gave an explanation why the gold-silver ratio hasn't gone down to 16 to 1 or 15 to 1 or 9 to 1, using the relative rarity argument is not dispositive of value, and also mentioning that when the gold-silver ratio was 16 to 1, 15 to 1 is because there were government-mandated bimetallic standards, which we don't have anymore. But anyway, LMAO. Yeah, he's mocking me for pointing out for the last 50 years the gold-silver ratio has been sustainable, well over 16 to 1. But anyway, from that he concludes, because I point out reality of the last 50 years, and I can even show you 100 years, that I really hate silver. No, I think what I hate are people explaining why something should be the way they think it should be, using outdated or cherry-picked data, and then insisting it has to be right when it's clearly not right. And every year, month that goes by, it's proven not to be right, but yet they're just insisting they just happen to be 3 lifetimes early. But anyway, he now says here that, what is he saying? This guy really hates silver. I think gold is overvalued and silver is undervalued. Yes, and of course, the people that say that have been saying, they said that last year, the year before, the year before that, the year before that, the year before that, and you could see every year they've been saying that. They didn't just come upon this. People who think that silver is undervalued have thought that last year, thought that in 2016, thought that in 2015, and you'll see in the charts, gold just keeps pulling ahead of silver. But yet, it's unsustainable. Well, for how long? Okay, one day I'll exchange a bunch of silver for gold. This is the hopium part of it. You just keep stacking silver against the concept that, or on the basis that silver is rarer than gold, or the gold-silver ratio is unsustainable and should be 16 to 1. So every dollar or every point it gets away from 16 to 1, they think, well, that means I'm going to be even richer because eventually it's going to be 16. No. It's going to be 50. No. It's going to be not. No. It's going to be 1 to 1. And they've heard that, they believe it, so their mind goes off and it just says, I'm going to buy silver. And what does he say? For now, I'm going to stack 100 ounces of silver every 1 ounce of gold. Well, I'm glad you have enough money to buy 100 ounces of silver and an ounce of gold, but good for you. Gold is, then you get, this is a cliche, gold is the money of kings, silver is the money of nobility, and copper is the money of peasants. Okay. Soon I believe government will be the money of governments. Now, why would he believe that? When you got these people out there talking about modern monetary theory, you got QE, you got the reset. That's another one. It's the reset, because they're going to have to, this is like a law, they're going to have to back their currencies with gold and silver, because some guy said they have to, because the people won't have confidence in it otherwise. Now, the reason that I never bought into that is what people? The people that run all this stuff, they don't believe in gold or silver at all. They're all Keynesians or monetary theorists. They have no interest in backing they want to do all kinds of tricks and monetary policies. They don't want gold setting the monetary policy. And forget silver. But this person is convinced that gold will be the money of governments and silver will be the money of the upper middle class, like business owners. Yes. Talk to a lot of business owners and ask them about their plans for accepting silver. Why would you even think this? It's just hopium. And copper will be the money of the average citizen. Okay. Talk to your average citizen. Ask him how his plans for copper as money are. Who's going to institute this? Certainly not going to be from the grassroots. The average person doesn't know anything about gold, silver, or copper. The people that run governments, they have no interest in this fantasy right here. And all will be converted into cryptocurrency that could be linked to a debit card. Well, I see that, yes. They're going to. We know that everything is going to be digitized, put on the blockchain. And it's not just going to be gold, silver, copper. It's going to be everything. They're going to transmit all kinds of, quote, value over the blockchain. Asset-backed cryptocurrencies, non-asset-backed cryptocurrencies, stable coins. Yes, that's all in the future. But, of course, we will see. All right. Let's see. What else do we have in our silver evening? Let's take a look now. While we're talking about the gold, let's do the gold-silver ratio. Okay. Let's look at the last 10 years. Because this is when the propaganda has really been flying since 2009 about silver. Silver is the most useful, most sustainable, unsustainable. COMEX is going to default. We're running out of silver, silver shortage. JP Morgan's buying silver, gold-silver ratio unsustainable. What's unsustainable about that chart? You had your spike in 2011, and then ever since then, 40 to 1, 50 to 1, 60 to 1, 70 to 1, 80 to 1, and all along the watchtower there, all along that rise up, I can find you 50 videos a year, someone out there saying, the gold-silver ratio at 40 to 1 is unsustainable. At 50 to 1, it's just smoking by. At 60 to 1, sell. All right, we're looking at this chart. We got cut off again. I knew we were going to get cut off. Look at this chart. All along this period, all along the watchtower from 2010, 2009 to 2019, we have been hearing silver is rarer than gold. Silver is one of the most useful metals on the planet. We are running out of silver. JP Morgan is buying silver, so I am buying silver too. COMEX is going to default. I am going to be rich. I am going to take my silver box, silver monster box, and buy a city block with it, or average size family home. Greatest wealth transfer in history happens in this decade because of silver. And this price of silver is still $16, $15 across the board. 10 years, same price. Okay, now I'm not cutting on silver. This is a fact. But during this chart here, you could see you had your spike in 2011. Okay. Then when it went to 40 to 1, oh, the silver-gold ratio at 40 to 1 is unsustainable. At 50 to 1, unsustainable. Sell all your gold at 60 to 1 because you're never going to get this chance again, and buy silver. Silver's just smoking by at 50 to 1, 60 to 1, 70 to 1, 80 to 1, almost 90 to 1. And again, not one bit of introspection here. Just insisting. Silver is rarer than gold. The gold-silver ratio is unsustainable. It should be 16 to 1. No, it should be 15 to 1. No, it should be 9 to 1 because silver comes out of the ground only 9 times greater than gold. Okay. Now, you can repeat all this stuff, and you can insist that every time the gold-silver ratio goes higher, you're going to get richer because it's eventually, it has to go to 6. People actually believe this. They've heard, this is what they learned. They've heard it, and they don't even... When something like this happens over a decade and you repeat, it's going to 16 to 1. When it's going in the opposite direction and you have no idea why, you know, it's like this isn't happening. This is just because, well, it's because the markets haven't figured, nonsense. The markets have figured it out. Gold is being traded higher. Now, if you want to argue it's manipulation, that's fine. You can say it's manipulation. That solves all issues. You can just say anytime the market doesn't do what you expect it to do, it's manipulation. And I don't doubt that there is massive manipulation in all markets. However, if you know markets are manipulated and you know the result is going to look like this, then why do you keep insisting it's not going to? Oh, well, that's where you get into the physical markets will eventually overwhelm the paper market. They must have heard that a billion times. All right, now, this is only a 10-year chart, and I mentioned you do have that little glimmer of hope here where silver spiked $50 an ounce when gold spiked to $1,900 an ounce, and you did get to 31. Now, these spikes are generally every 30 or 40 years apart, and that's why I call silver a spike and dive metal. But for the most part, after the spike, it then dives, and then things normalize, and silver continues to drift lower, and then gold starts to regain itself and go higher. And that's exactly what you see here. But let's look at another chart. I want to show you this chart because this one highlights my point about the gold-silver ratio really being only relevant since the end of the gold standard and the end of silver being used as currency in the United States. Now, gold actually stopped being used in 1933 when Roosevelt gave the executive order 6102 and said you turn in your gold, and then they had to turn in they had to turn in the gold coins that they were using in day-to-day transactions, and then the United States never minted gold coins again for general circulation. However, we remained on a gold standard, and we had the Bretton Woods Agreement from 1944 to 1971, which really wasn't a gold standard, it was a dollar standard because all the other countries weren't on a gold standard. It was basically the United States dollar could be redeemed into gold, but only from central banks. Now, that was 1971 when they got off of that. In 1965, Johnson completed the end of silver demonetization, and then there was no more silver in the coinage. And by 1968, you couldn't even get, if you had a silver certificate, they wouldn't give you a silver dollar anymore. Okay, so by 1971, Nixon ends the gold standard, the Bretton Woods dollar standard backed by gold. 1965, Johnson ends the silver certificates, 1968. So by 1972, there is no gold, there is no silver in any of the money at all. But Americans could not buy gold until 1975, could not hold gold until 1975. Now, keep that in mind. We're going to just cover this period of time, then we're going to go back another 100 years. Well, let's just look since 1975. On this chart, 1980, when you had a massive surge in the price of silver, primarily because the Hunts brothers proved what a small market it was and tried to buy every amount of every physical ounce of silver they possibly could. And it didn't take that much back then, and it doesn't even take that much now to try to grab as much of it as you can because it's cheap. It was a few dollars an ounce at the time when they were trying to do this. They drove it out of the single digits into the teens and all the way up to $50, and then COMEX shut them down. But the point is, even then, when you had silver actually being, in a sense, the market being cornered, meaning that there was a buyer for everything. The Hunts brothers were buying on the way up. They were just going to keep buying and buying and buying. They were going to corner the silver market. They were going to have as much silver as they could. And even then, when that happened, for a brief shining moment, the gold-silver ratio went to 16 to 1. Ever since then, the gold-silver ratio has not even come close. You could see by those little red lines at the bottom there, you can see the 30 to 1 in 2011. You can see like in 1998, it was like 40 to 1. Got as high as 100 to 1 in 1991. Okay, and we're getting close there. But if you look at the average, you're clearly above 50. It's not like in the last nearly 50 years that the gold-silver ratio has just been hovering around 16 to 1, and it's just a little bit of an aberration that it's like 18 to 1 or 20 to 1 for a couple of months. No. The aberration was when it went to 16 to 1 in 1980, and that's it. So, since gold and silver have been demonetized and Americans have been allowed to buy gold and silver in 1975, you don't even come close to that. You got peaks on here, 90, 80, 70, 80, 85, 85. I mean, and then you have 40 and 30. Those are your lows. It's not even a... I don't know how anyone could look at this chart and say that the gold-silver ratio should be 16 to 1 without even thinking, well, why isn't it? Now, why isn't it? It's because neither of them are used as money, so neither of them are used on a comparative basis where you have to rank one against the other because they're both used as money in the monetary system. When you had a bimetallic standard in the United States in 1792, they set the gold-silver ratio at 15 to 1, and then they refixed it, I think, in 1838 to 16 to 1. Those were fixed ratios because they were both used as money. When they stopped using them as money, and then the only reason, now let's take a look, hold on. The only reason the gold-silver ratio even came down in 1967, I'm going to show you a longer-term chart, was because, remember, the price of gold was fixed by the United States government. In 1934, by the Gold Act of 1934, they fixed it at $35 an ounce. And that price stayed, and they try to keep it that price. Look at 1967. That's the London gold pool. They're trying to keep the price, the same price for 40 years at $35 for purposes of the Bretton Woods agreements, because the United States did not want gold to rise because they didn't want the dollar to be devalued. So they played this charade on the world markets that gold is $35 an ounce from 1934 to 1974. Even so, with the gold price fixed at $35, the gold-silver ratio only got to 16 to 1 in 1967. But that's because gold did not have a chance to rise in value for 30 years. And it's still, silver didn't get past 16 to 1. Then if you look at the chart where the line is drawn, which is basically the 1974 line again, and you can see you don't get to 16 to 1. You didn't get to 16 to 1 in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, or the 50s. You only got to 16 to 1 in 1967, when clearly the whole world knew that gold should not have been $35 an ounce. It was being manipulated down to keep the Bretton Woods agreement in place. And then once the charade of trying to keep the price at 35 to 1 went away and they allowed Americans to buy gold, then the price of gold started to go up. But then the Hunt brothers came in and they said, well, we can't buy gold, so they started buying silver. And that's when you have that spike you can see where right past the vertical line, you see the horizontal line, small horizontal line. You got 1981, and you got the Hunt brothers pushing it down to 16 to 1. But again, there's nothing in history that is showing you 16 to 1 or 15 to 1, other than if you go back to the period of time in the 19th century when gold and silver were used as money side by side. If they're not used as money side by side, there's no reason for them to be 16 to 1. Why? Gold is an entirely different metal. Serves different purposes, is much greater demand in terms of price for jewelry. Silver is in greater demand for industry. Gold is in greater investment demand, far more investment demand than jewelry. In fact, jewelry is the #1 demand component of gold, but right behind it is investment demand, and that's personal, private, corporate, institutional investment demand, and central bank investment demand. There is no central bank investment demand for silver. There is no corporate demand. There is no institutional demand really for silver. Silver is essentially, the demand for that is at a much smaller mom and pop retail level. Now, let's talk about silver investment demand. Let's go back to 2006. Look at that. Well, this is very, very important. 2006, silver coins and bars made up 5%, and that includes American Silver Eagles, 5% of overall silver demand. Industrial demand was 69%, and silverware and jewelry was 25%. Now, the gold chart has never looked like this. The investment demand for gold can range from 40, 50, or 60% in a given year. It's never 5%. The lowest gold demand is for industry. And the only reason it's that low is not because gold isn't useful in industry. It's because it's too expensive to use in industry. Now, one of the things that happened, which was, I thought, quite astonishing, was in 2015, we really did see the price of silver went down and there was a big pickup in investment demand. Now, look at this. Silver coins and bars, because of the big increase, the record year in India, the record year in American Silver Eagles, the record year in Canadian Silver Maple Leafs, the record year at the Perth Mint in silver demand, drove the investment component of silver all the way to 22.5%. Now, at that point, my analysis was, if this continues, then I think there is a shot at silver going to skyrocket, because there is a limited amount of silver, just like there's a limited amount of any metal. And if investment demand is going to go up fourfold, 5% to 20%, and it looked like it was going to go higher, well, let's say if that amount, the 22%, got to 30%, you might be competing for the industrial demand, which industry wouldn't blink. If investors drive silver higher, the industries are still going to pay the price. There was no issue then in 2011, because the amount of silver they use in each component part doesn't make up the vast price or the vast input into the finished product like solar panels or electronics. But let's look now at, there's another chart I want to show you. That was what the Silver Institute came up with. It was 22.5%. I don't have the chart here, but this chart just shows, I had actually calculated that there was greater silver bar demand there that they were giving credit for, and with my calculation, it went all the way up to 25% that year. But you can see this chart is showing side by side silver demand in 2006 to silver demand in 2015, and that's a big deal. That red, that was a very, very big deal for that red silver coin in bar demand to increase by that amount and start to crowd out the industrial demand. Now, the reason I was 2 minutes late, I realized it might make sense for me to update the chart and show you where we are today, though. Now, there you go. While investment demand is higher than it was in 2006 when it was only 5%, in fact, it's double what it was in 2006, but it's about half of what it was in 2015. And that really has taken the pressure off on silver demand. That's why we don't have a real issue with the shortage. I think the only way you're going to have a shortage is going to be if either that investment demand really moves up even higher than we had in 2015, but coupled with some type of increase in industrial demand. And currently, there has not been a real big increase in electronics demand. In fact, the amount of silver used in 2018 was less than they used in 2010 for electronics and industrial fabrication. The amount of silver used in 2010 was 633 ounces, and last year it was 585 million ounces. 600. Let me repeat that. In 2010, the amount of silver required to meet industrial fabrication demand was 633 million ounces versus 584 million ounces in 2018. So industrial silver demand is not increasing. Even if you include solar electronics, they're learning to do a thing called thrifting. They use less silver per solar panel, less silver per electronics. The electronics are getting smaller, so they use less silver. So the demand profile isn't increasing in industry, and as we've seen, it's been cut in half in investment. That leaves a little bit of growth in jewelry and silverware from 241 million ounces to 252 million ounces. That's not that significant, and the bulk of that comes from silverware growth in India. So what's driving silver demand is not industry or people stacking for the collapse, but somewhat of a wealth effect in India, where Indians can satisfy their silver urges on silverware and silver trinkets, silver jewelry, because they can afford it. All right, what else do we got on silver tonight? I hope you appreciate this. Is information you don't get. You get people just telling you why it's going to go higher. They never explain why. Well, why didn't it go higher? Oh, well, they just keep repeating themselves as the price doesn't go higher. Well, here's one that gets repeated a lot. I don't dispute this. Silver is a percentage of global financial assets. This is the famous triangle that they try to show you that no one buys silver as an investment. Okay, they don't. It doesn't show any indication that they will. This only goes to 2015. But you can see it was only in 1980 when that's really Hunt's Brothers' investment in silver. The question is, why would, other than people who listen to silver YouTube channels, why would an institutional investor invest in silver? Well, I think today the answer is the same reason they might invest in Bitcoin. Now you say that doesn't make any sense. Well, it does. Warren Buffett invested in silver, and the reason he did that was it was speculation. He figured it's cheap, I'll buy it. So all you have to, and here's this is the speculation part, the Smaulgld sleeping silver speculation, is there's a couple of things that can move the price of silver. The fact that silver is a small market makes it by definition speculative. Look at palladium. That's exactly what happened to palladium. All that has to happen in palladium is you get some ramped up industrial use and boom, it's going to go higher. And the industry is going to pay it because they have to. The same with silver. If there's somehow great demand for silver because of right now there's nothing on the horizon, but let's say it's electronic cars. and they're going to make zillions of them, and you need silver in them. People talk about munitions. It's not going to be that. You're not going to make enough intercontinental ballistic missiles for it to matter. There's not that. There's a few monster boxes in each one of them. But if you're going to make mass millions of cars and they require a certain amount of silver, well, that might have some impact on the amount of silver. And if you get coupled with that, speculative silver buys. I'm not talking about COMEX futures buying. Well, that could help. It could help too. But actual people buying silver the way they buy gold, which right now, actually, it's counterintuitive. One of the reasons that rich people don't buy silver and stack it and store it is because they require 85 times the amount of space. So if they're going to go to Switzerland and rent out a vault and stack it in there, I mean, they're far better off with the storage fees putting gold in there than silver. However, if the price of silver to rise and there was a lot of speculation, that might even feed on itself, or rich people will take a flyer on silver if it's a lot more expensive and the ratio is lower and they can store it. So those are things that, and again, these are speculative, low probability scenarios. All the other stuff they told you, I think, is not even a probability. But these are the things, if you're thinking about speculation, that could move the price of silver. Not a COMEX default, not this nonsense that JP Morgan has silver, not that the gold-silver ratio is unsustainable. It's the fact that, yes, silver is a small market, and because of that, it is subject to manipulation on the positive and the plus and downside possibly, and that there might be some type of crunch if there is increased industrial demand coupled with increased investment demand at the same time. That's where you could get some type of, palladium style rise. And not because silver is money or anything like that, or COMEX default. Let me just show you though the amount of silver that's being mined. I think people miss this too. Silver mining production, I've been hearing like the last 10 years, silver mining production is falling off a cliff. No, it hasn't. Look at it. It's gone up a steep cliff. It hasn't fallen off a cliff. I kept hearing silver shortage. This mine closed. That means that Peru's no longer going to be mining. No, nonsense. Even with, let me show you. You've seen this chart here. You can see how we've had record years up until last year in silver production. But even though last year wasn't a record year, still much higher than 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Look at 2000. Way down. 1,900 19,000 tons, and last year, 27,000 tons. Look at the Comstock load. Remember we talked about that? The Comstock load was like a big deal in 1859. Look at 1860. It went up all the way, They used to mine less than 2,000 tons a year. Silver has been mined in massive quantities. You can see during the pre-war years here where they were trying to, in the 30s, there was a silver shortage. We're not going to go into the reason for that tonight, but you could see they ramped up the production. But look at that line. It goes straight up. So when people are trying to tell you that the silver peaks, silver, running out of silver, mining is down, where? I mean, last year maybe, but it's not down from, it's not like even at 1990s levels or 2000 levels. But look at this when you compare it to the price. There's another one. Oh, they're not going to mine anymore and the price goes down. Well, there you go. Price goes down. The blue line shows the price. Silver bar shows how much they mined. Look at the price going down towards the right-hand side of the chart. Look at the price. Look at the amount of silver mined going up. And you can say what you want. Oh, no, they won't mine. They're not mining. Well, the chart tells you they did mine. Price went down, they kept mining. This doesn't mean I hate silver. This means that's what they do. They don't stop mining. Maybe one day they will, but that's the other thing. The cost of production is lower than the price of silver, and therefore silver set to skyrocket. No. Look at all the silver they've been mining. There's enough silver out there. They can actually cut production in half in a given year. It might not even bother the market whatsoever. All right. Again, not because I hate silver. I just said I like facts. What else do we got here? Gold-silver ratio, unsustainable. Silver is a percentage. All right, let's look at... Here's your cumulative silver mining. We already saw that, didn't we? Yeah, we saw that. We need to see the silver ETF. Here's another place. If the government ever wanted to find silver, They got 300 million ounces they can go and try to confiscate at the COMEX vaults. And there's about 600 million ounces in these ETFs. SLV itself has over 300 million ounces. Although the last year or so, it looks like we're moving down a bit in terms of the amount of silver that's being held by institutional investors. All right, I think that wraps up Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld. I'm not thinking I'm missing anything, am I? Nope. Nope, that's it. That's all the charts I have here tonight. But I do have to take a look at your comments, so we're going to do that. All right, let's see what you guys got. Sure, we got some good comments. Roger's here. If silver is a speculator's wet dream, then I'm going to load the truck. Fact. Period. Scotty O is here. Roger says, I think Mark should make a hip-hop rap intro. Yeah, we should try that. You know, I think he does in his work. I think he does produce some famous rappers, so you probably know how to do that. Pablo is here. Lewis is not Smaulgld, he's Litecoin. Oh, yeah. Well, once in a while. A little tardy, though. I haven't missed a day, though. We do this 7 days a week around this time period. Sleeping Gold, game changer. Roger says, imagine saying the video title name if you had a lisp. You drown the keyboard. Saturday Night Sleeping Silver Speculation with Smaulgld. Suffering succotash. All right. Pablo, if Bitcoin ETF is on the blockchain, eliminates third party, less likely manipulation, no Bitcoin can climb. I'm not sure. Roger, Jacob Frostrat has the gold. That is all I need to know. That is right. GC Shearer. Damn, all this positive Bitcoin news, might have to throw some cash at it eventually. Now, C. Shearer, here's the thing. That's another thing that people who fall in love with assets do. There are people that like silver, and they only like silver, and silver is rarer than gold. And everything else, you have lack of integrity if you even look at cryptocurrencies. I mean, I don't know if you want to belong to a... you want to have services around silver. Like, tonight is the silver service. All praise silver. Amen. I mean, once you get like that, I think then you're incapable of viewing the world objectively, because you've decided cryptocurrencies are bad. They were invented by the CIA, and anyone who buys them does not believe in, these are digital illusions of wealth. Measure your wealth in money. You just start repeating mantras like you're in church, and nothing wrong with church, but I think there's something wrong if it's the church of silver or the church of gold or the church of Bitcoin or the church of Litecoin. Once you get to that point where you refuse to see anything, you've created that is all I need to know. And usually all you need to know when you say that means you've closed your mind and you're digging your heels in spite of the fact when you see charts like the gold-silver ratio going higher and you just keep telling yourself it has to go lower, it's unsustainable, COMEX default, what about JP Morgan? What about JP Morgan? All these things, and you refuse to look at anything else, and that's usually to your detriment because you say something like, JP Morgan is buying silver. That is all I need to know. First of all, probably it's not even true, and second of all, you would still need to know more. But once you get that mindset, then you miss out on opportunities. That's absolutely true. Pablo Pena says the bowl is huge. Yes, that bowl is bigger than Coco's head. We showed the cute picture of Coco. It looks like a chihuahua with his Smaulgld bowl. All right. Yep. You guys answered all the questions correctly. About the worth your weight in beer, not your weight in gold. Pot of uranium at the end of the rainbow. All right. What else do we have here? Silver lining, there you go. Mint Mark SI. Yes, silver lining is up there with silver bullet. But you know, the thing about the silver lining, it's almost like a consolation prize, though, isn't it? Mint Mark SI. Say with the silver bullet, it's not really, doesn't make it desirable. It's almost like, oh, okay, well, we lost, but there's a silver lining is, I made a friend out of it. Okay, I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's a very good one. Thanks for bringing that one up. Mint Mark SI, Golden Age. JP Morgan's stack is heading to the moon. That is what I'm going to do, says Roger Henley. Only he would say it in an Australian robot voice. JP Morgan is stacking, heading to the moon. I'm going to do what they are going to do. All right, make your own crypto coin. Yellow brick road and silver slippers. Yep. But actually, as you know, Mike, in the movie, they made them ruby red instead of silver. But yes, the point is not lost on me. Prashanti girl, hi guys. I'm working so I can't comment, but happy to catch a live stream. Well, it's good to see you here again. Eric Schneider, I will never tell someone to sell a precious metal for another gold, silver, and platinum, all precious metals, and serve their own unique function. That's right. And once you become convinced, see, I'm not convinced of anything. I'm convinced of what I've seen, though. But there are people that have been convinced, and I don't tell you what to do, but they're telling you, sell your gold for silver now. It's unsustainable at 50. It's unsustainable at 60. It's a smoking deal at 70. Greatest wealth transfer this decade. I mean, they're telling you to buy something. I don't tell you to buy anything. If you want to buy something, go ahead and use the Smaulgld links. Go to SD Bullion links. Go to Money Metals Exchange, Golden Eagle Coin. I get a small commission if you do that. It's not investment advice. But if you've done your research, whatever that research is, listen to the Silver Pumper channels, listen to Smaulgld, talking to your financial, whatever it is, and you want to buy gold or silver, please consider doing so at the Smaulgld links. All right. Roger says, my 100-ounce silver bars make great paperwork. I'm sure. Eric's going to buy gold. Roger Henley. Lewis, you making fun of Mike Maloney's predictions? No. Just pointing them out. I mean, he did say greatest wealth transfer this decade. That's what he said. In 2011, he said. And he said as early as 2015, I think you'll be able to buy a single-family home with some ridiculously small amount of silver. I don't know. Instead of silver, says Fiona Whalen, physical palladium is currently overwhelming paper palladium. Would there be interesting to know what's going on there? Yeah, I don't know enough about what's going on with palladium, but that is a very small market, and it has rhodium too. I mean, these things have spiked. Am I kicked out of here, says Eric. Why would Eric be kicked out? You are speaking against silver pumpers, not silver itself. Exactly. It's not even the silver pumpers themselves. It's the silver narratives that people repeat. Like, they repeat them like they're gospel. And that they have to repeat them. And they repeat them in the face of getting clobbered. That somehow they've been told something about silver. They've been told it's set to skyrocket. They're told the same story either continuously during the last 10 years or intermittently, like COMEX default. That comes out every year or so. They don't keep telling you it's going to default. When they think you forgot about the last imminent default, they bring it out again. But you're always told about JP Morgan. You're always told about silver's a small market. Gold-silver ratio is unsustainable. Well, 10 years is not unsustainable. Now, if you want to say, yeah, in a few lifetimes won't be that anymore, who knows? All right. Palladium is rare. Heard recently new batteries. Yeah, that's true. Mike Hearn says, keep stacking silver. That's right. Just keep stacking. Flesh wound. Keep fighting. I guess palladium can't get slammed like gold and silver does, says Pablo. Well, that's not true. We've seen rhodium went like to 15,000 every day and it got slammed down. And, sometimes it's just a function. I don't know what's going on palladium. I'm not into the details. But it could just be a bottleneck. And it could be a year's bottleneck. But eventually it could all work itself out. If there's some transferability over to palladium, that will happen. To the extent there's not, mining will pick up, the strike ends, or whatever happens. I don't expect, palladium might not be at this level next year. It might be twice as high, but it can go back down to $300, $400, $500 an ounce. I don't know what Jim Rogers said there. Mike says, buy while the price of silver is low. Well, it's been low for 10 years, so I guess this has been manna from heaven, the price being this low. Yes, Eric says at one time Russia monetized platinum issued in a coin. That's when they first discovered it, and it was really only in Russia, and they had a couple of platinum coins that they made, but they didn't really get widely used. No, it wasn't in the socialist regime, Pablo. It was in the late 19th century, I believe. It was actually, you guys declined. You guys actually declined. I had a poll and I asked if anyone wanted me to do. I have a full set of research about platinum that I had done a few years ago, and I said I will update it for you. Do you want me to do it? And what happened? Like 60% said no, thank you. I'd take the 0. No one wanted it. I mean, it wasn't overwhelming demand for only 40% said they wanted it. And I'm looking at my platinum research right now, and I'm going to get you that information on. There you go. Platinum has no. This is from my own work, and it says platinum has no real monetary history other than a short period of time in the 19th century during which Russia minted platinum coins. Okay, and that's because they had not found the element of platinum. It's really only been recently found. It hasn't been around for thousands of years with a monetary history. It was only discovered, I don't know, it was discovered by I don't remember the guys. Anyway, we're not doing platinum because no one wants to hear about platinum, so I'm going to move on now to the rest of the comments. Silver is rarer than gold. That is all you need to know. All right, here we go. Sell mugs, buy gold. I don't know about that. Never sell mugs. The world's going to a mug standard, says Eric. Mugs to the moon, says Pablo. Roger says he will never sell my Smaulgld Hyper Classic mug. It's far too valuable, and because you don't have a Smaulgld Classic or Super Classic mug, so you have to rely on your cheap plastic knockoff. All right. 2015 was due entirely to Roger's purchases just before he concocted his counterfeit mug scheme, says Scott Riddell. Roger says he's in the process of getting his Hyper Classic mugs listed on Amazon. Okay. The robots. Fiona, Pablo Pina. Russia tried to monetize platinum in the 19th century. That's right. Not during the Soviets, I believe. It was during the reign of Alexander II. And Fiona should probably know this, not only because she is a smart woman, but I believe also she grew up in the Soviet Union. Let's see, what else do we have here? Mike Herney, Smaulgld, currency printing is way up, LOL. Okay. See, there's another thing I think that people, they assume that monetary collapse means that the world goes to gold and silver. That's fact to them. Might not be. I mean, the way these people think that are in charge of the monetary system might not be anywhere near. I mean, you may think that's what they should do. I don't think they think that. So they can print as much as they want. It doesn't mean gold and silver are going to go higher. Could, but... All right. I've never seen them and I collect Russian coins, says... I've seen pictures of them, Fiona. I had, when I did that research, I remember looking them up. Kopecks or wherever they are. All right. Partisan Gorilla says there is no physical silver in an ETF. That's not true. That's what they tell you to get you excited. That's the same as there is no gold at Fort Knox. The United States is stupid. They have no gold and China has gold, and gold. China is smart because they are buying gold. China is my gold buddy. They're going to fix the world. I mean, that's just people, once they believe in an asset like silver or gold, they start to believe in these. They're myths. They're legends. They're false narratives that make them believe that COMEX is going to default, the dollar is going to collapse, there's no gold at Fort Knox, there's no silver in the ETF, it's all a big game. And once the world figures it out, then gold and silver will skyrocket, and I'll be able to take my roll of Silver Eagles down to the realtor and buy a single-family home. I'll be able to take a monster box over to a shopping center and buy that. I mean, this is just the fantasy that people feed you. You're supposed to, and then you believe it. And then not only do you believe it to the point of snarkiness. You say, I have more gold in the United States as at Fort Knox. Yeah, I have that inside information. Yeah, I'm stacking tonight. Mugs trade 7 days a week. Yes. Mike says, Smaulgld, thanks for Saturday Night Silver. Silver is good if we really all go Mad Max. I don't know, Morning Mine. I think silver is good if we go before Mad Max. You go Mad Max, silver is useless. you're gonna want your private army, your ammunition, your food supply. Yeah, Mad Max is silver's used. You're gonna get killed for your silver, or you're gonna spend your time trying to defend it. I don't think it's. I think the best case for silver to go higher is industrial demand, investment demand, and some type of hyperinflation or intermittent electrical use, or some type of internet security scare, bank closures, where you can use silver as a day-to-day metal for transactions. That's not unlikely, but it could happen. Mad Max, if everything breaks down, you'd step over silver in the street. I mean, what's it going to do for you? You see, the thing is, in Mad Max, there's no commerce. There's nothing being produced. There's people just scavenging. It's silver. Any money is only good is if there's something to buy, and that there's supply lines and things are being produced. Now, even if it's intermittent, that's when I think that it would be valuable. Did I hear any talk about manipulation via silver derivative markets? Yeah, I did. I mentioned earlier that Partisan Gorilla that all the markets are manipulated, and silver is easier to manipulate because it's smaller. But then again, what I did mention, if you missed the earlier part, okay, so if you're all tuned in and you get the fact that there's manipulation, then why do you insist that silver is going to go higher when you know that they manipulate it? That's what I don't understand. It's like, yeah, see? Look at this. If I stand in the middle of the road, I know that truck will hit me if I don't get out of the way, so I'm going to stand here to show you I'm right. And then you get hit by the truck, you recover 3 years later, and you say, I'm going back out to prove it again. I don't understand. If you actually believe that silver is manipulated to the point where it will not go higher, unless you just have that hopium, well, then the physical will over-demand the paper. Okay. Yes. Roger says, morning, man. If we go Mad Max, I'll be stacking tins of dog food, and those silver rounds will be good to throw at the enemy for defense. Yeah, that's right. LOL, Roger. I'll have liquor and budge. That is morning, Mayan. Run out fast. All right. Mike Hearn is Smaulgld. Okay, Lewis, where are you investing? Because if you're looking at all this, and silver is not the answer for you. Okay. First of all, I don't give investment advice. That's the first thing. The purpose of this channel is not to tell you what to buy. If I knew what to buy, I'd be buying it. I wouldn't be wasting my time on here. I'd be buying and selling it 24/7. But my point is, the purpose of this channel is for me to collect my thoughts and to help other people collect their thoughts, and then to learn from what other people are learning by not just regurgitating what they hear on other channels. So, a lot of people go on to channels to be told something, and they love it. If they're told the same story each and every night, then they go to another channel and they hear the same story. Silver is rarer than gold. The gold-silver ratio is unsustainable. And if they hear that everywhere, then they're like, okay, I feel comfortable. I know. You know, the thing about strategy or just basic thought is the ability to have a theory, have a thesis, have a strategy, but then to adapt when you see the world is not performing or you're not getting along with your strategy. And I see none of that. I just see people repeating the same tired arguments for silver. And those are not the reasons. Silver's not going to go up because of the commitment of traders, historical the commercials are net long, or JP Morgan is buying silver, or Comex is going to default. Those aren't even, they're not even realistic reasons, and they're not why you should buy silver. There's other reasons to buy silver. I'm not going to give them to you tonight, but once you're tied into those stories, then you're lost. Then you're in the church. Then you have silver derangement syndrome, and you just believe those stories. Okay. Zipper Fixer, what will happen to your Bitcoin when you pass away, leaving in a will? Well, I guess if you have a Bitcoin, just like any other property, I guess it's the same thing. That's right. You'd have to leave it in your will, and you'd have to identify how to access it, which would mean you'd have to leave the private keys in the will, I suppose. You guys are talking about ruse. Oh, DBC, just a little bit late, but tuning in nonetheless. Morning Mime says, you have a classic mug. No, you don't. You have a super classic mug. You have the red mug. In fact, I'm going to prove it to our listeners that Morning Mayan actually has a mug. She's not just grandstanding that she has a mug. She does indeed have a Smaulgld Super Classic. Remember, the Super Classic is got the red on. I'm going to show you. The Super Classic is the one to the left. The Classic is the one to the right. But what Linda has is the Super Classic. Let's see if I can find it. It really should be better organized here so I can show you. There she is. Morning Mine with Cat. And that indeed is your Smaulgld Super Classic mug. There it is. C. Shear, thanks for the detailed response. New to all this and enjoy your channel. Thank you for listening. Fiona pulled a message. Might have been a good one. All right. Yes, she's from the USSR. Pablo Pina, get a picture of your Smaulgld Classic mug with your cat and send it to Lewis for a mugshot. Well, looks like she did that pretty quickly, Pablo. No, she sent this a few days ago. After a collapse, Soviet Union, says Fiona, when ruble started to inflate 10% a month, silver, gold, and platinum jewelry did help people who had them. Oh, sure it did. Didn't make them rich, would pay for surgery or doctor visits. Yes, that is one of your reasons to have precious metals as insurance against some type of inflationary. Having any hard asset that you can trade. I think you had mentioned, Fiona, that having small bottles of vodka or even big bottles of vodka would be good to have. Yeah. I knew I should have sold all my silver, says Morning Mine, when it hit 50. Everyone on YouTube talked me out of it. Yeah, this is the whole thing. I don't tell you what to do. I just throw stuff out there. People are on you. I don't know what it is. They go on you and they tell you what to do. And there's people who are willing not only to listen to be told what to do, but to pay them to be told what to do. And then what they're told to do doesn't work out for them, then they still believe it. And they keep paying them, either by buying their products or signing up to be a patron or whatever it is. And they continue to follow people that tell them what to do, even if telling them what to do isn't working for them. There you go. Silverware is nice, yes. Pablo Pina, have you heard the banking policy Basel 331.19? No, I haven't. Why would MM deceive us about which mug another conspiracy theory born? Yes, I think it was an honest mistake. She wasn't quite sure. Roger's saying cats prefer plastic. For those you don't know, Roger is our Australian friend who, you got to check out his video about what he believes are the superior mugs. They are the Smaulgld Hyper Classic mugs. They're made of high quality plastic. You can feed a kangaroo with them. Let me just show you what they look like. I'm not really impressed. I'm impressed with Roger's videography prowess, but not with his mug. He even has it set up now that it can also act as a it also acts as a let me just pull this up here, as a way of feeding a kangaroo, which is very useful nowhere other than Australia, but he does have that in there. But let me show you. There's so many good pictures here. I want to show you everything, but we got to get off the phone here. But I do want to show you. We'll leave you with, well, I'll show you mug life. Mug life is important. But I'm going to show you Roger's plastic Smaulgld Hyper Classic mug. And to make it look authentic, he put a couple of Perth-Mint coins, which come from what he calls the Rubot. I think he's pitching a big conspiracy theory here. Fact. Truth. I can't even find it. I guess the powers that be have invaded my computer and taken it from me. We may not be able to show Roger's mug tonight, and that, well, there it is. No, we're going to show it, and we're going to close off the evening with that cheap-looking mug. Hand-drawn, counterfeited, knockoff Smaulgld Hyper Classic mug. Remember, only buy original Smaulgld Classic and Super Classic mugs, and go to smaulgld.com, and there's more than just mugs. There's beer steins and pet bowls, as you've seen earlier. All right, everyone, have a good night. Unless there's any more comments, I'm going to just check one last time, and we're going to be gone. Have a good night. Game over.